Hey there, welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. This show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the legends at the Royal Mighty Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and our good mate Jason Hawes at Cripps & Cripps Real Estate. And our coffee is powered by Mr. Paisley's in North Caringbah. Almost empty cup, but it has been a fresh brew this morning. And we love those guys down there. And we also love Kieran Fraser, who is on his own show right now, catching up with Kieran over coffee about Cronulla. And we've got a bunch to get through. We haven't spoken to Kieran for a couple of weeks, so some catch up on, as well as some kind of fresh, I won't say news, but maybe some rumors that are going around about players for the next year or two. Kieran, how are you, my friend? What's going on?
Well, that intro made me really want to get back down to the yacht club because I haven't been there probably in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think the last time I was there was with you when we watched the football, but I love that place. The food there is so good. And I love that they've got the trophies of sharks and people have caught the different sizes in the competitions in like port hacking, which is kind of scary. But other than that, mate, I'm good. I'm trying to think of things that have happened since we last spoke. But, the new jerseys came out, I think. The new range as well has come out. Yeah. The new Shark stores come out too. So there's been a lot of stuff happening for December. Also, there was a really good interview with Craig Fitzgibbon on SEN a few weeks ago, or maybe it was like last week. They covered off a lot of stuff too. So, yeah, it feels good. It feels like football's coming back.
It is. I just want to say, and we won't proceed after what I'm going to say, but you have a habit of talking about sharks in the week of or week after tragedies in the water, in all seriousness.
Has it been a tragedy in the water? I haven't been following the news lately. I've been very busy.
In the last week there has been, yeah.
Oh, really? In New South Wales?
I think it was like northern New South Wales. I would correct me, someone.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shark pile out there.
It was one of those ones where it was early morning, the ones you're not supposed to do, like and close to shore. So anyway, let's not get too grim here. We send our love and respect to those people suffering about those things. I shouldn't even say that. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've only had one, Mr. Paisley's, but I just thought it was topical that you always raise real life sharks, usually right around when we're not supposed to talk about it. But anyway, let's move on. You're right. The Yacht Club is an awesome place. I've got a feeling you're going to be there sooner rather than later. And I say that with some confidence because I got some plans, some things ticking over in my head. The head never stops. The mind never stops. So let's move on to a birthday wish. My nephew, he used to be this big. Now he's a giant. My nephew, Thomas, big Sharks fans, will send him love today on his birthday. And we also want to say thanks to everyone who's been tuning in to the Great Whites podcast series. And the latest one out is David Hatch, a great club captain of ours. And if you haven't seen it, go to sharks.com.au. You can watch the full thing. There's also an audio stream on our podcast feed. But a lot of fun doing those. There's more coming, but we'd love you to get into the David Hatch one. And one last bit of promo this week on Friday, my new music single comes out. It's called Christmas Time. If you're not a Christmas person, don't freak out because it's not really necessarily upbeat, jolly about the season. It is part of the subject, though, and I'd love you to go have a listen wherever you listen to music from Friday. But we're here to talk about the Sharks, Kieran, and today there is news in the paper and on the websites and on the TV shows about the future of Ryan Papenhuyzen, the 2020 Clive Churchill medalist. And he's been linked. Now, we say this very cautiously because there's not complete substance behind this, but linked with, in particular, two Southern Sydney teams, one being the mighty Cronulla Sharks, and one being the dastardly St. George Illawarra Dragons. Had my fun there. But that is in the news today. And we wanted to talk about that to start off with. And the likelihood, what we think, what we would like to think. So Kieran reported that the Dragons have an aging fullback in Clint Gutherson. We have a fullback who hasn't been signed for further than a year coming in Will Kennedy. And we have Ryan Papenhuyzen out just hanging around southern Sydney, apparently, and looking for a club. So what's your initial thoughts on those reports?
I think Ryan Papenhuyzen has been kind of a bit of a pipe dream for a lot of Sharks fans for a long time, because it's always like, oh, if you added someone like a Ryan Papenhuyzen into the Sharks team, that could take us to the next level, right? And the way that he's sort of become available is so unique and something that you would not have called, even 6, 7, 8 months ago. I think it's obviously very early days, but
Did
the
you
one
say
thing I
6,
will
7?
say,
You said 6, 7.
did I? Oh, please don't start that. I've just had to go through a Christmas concert with my kids and listening to the 6, 7
Dad
stuff.
jokes, parent jokes there for everyone. So keep going.
But I look at it and I just sort of say, well, when we signed Fanua Blake, there was no news around that sort of situation. He was linked to every other club, right? And the Sharks snuck up on the radar, and sort of about 48 hours before he signed, it kind of started to trickle out that, hey, the Sharks are a real chance here. He's met with Fitz, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of been the way the Sharks have done business now for a number of years, right? Even going back to when we moved John Morris on and we brought in Fitz. Like, I still remember that started coming out on like the Saturday afternoon, like this is actually happening. And then the Sunday it kind of broke. And the Sharks don't really get linked to players very often. I think this is a bit of a case of people looking at, the roster and the Kennedy situation, and maybe people putting, one-on-one together to try and come up with an answer here. I do think there is some things that Fitz said, especially like even with that SEN interview, where he talks very strongly around our roster and our retention and our stability is not by, lack of design. It's done purposefully because of what we have and what we believe in and how we're trying to build a culture and a club. He also says, but when a player like Adam Fanua-Blake comes on board, you kind of have to shuffle the deck and fit that guy in. Now, the fact that Papenhuyzen is now available for not just 2027, he's available for 2026. I'm doing some rough maths here on my iPhone, right? So I know we're going to talk about Jesse Ramien in a little bit, but he's been in the news for potentially, going to the Gold Coast, the Cowboys, that type of thing, even Papua New Guinea I saw. So again, I don't know the numbers of what he gets paid. I don't know the dollar figures that hit his bank account. But what I do know is the reports in the paper say that he's currently on 500. He's looking for 600, right? So we'll use that to work off for now, Sam. Because the NRL contracts start in November 1st, that's when he gets paid for this contract, right? So he will make about $41,666 per month, right? If he's on that dollar figure. Again, I've got no idea what he's actually on. The fact that we're now on December, so that's 2 months, he would probably be looking at about $80,000 of that $500,000 to have been paid into his pocket, right? So it leaves you about $420 if he moved on in December for a new club. Not suggesting that's going to happen. I'm just doing some fan mathematics, right? So that leaves you about $420,000 right there. You've also got the money from Ronaldo's injury, which is not a full amount of Ronaldo's contract, but I think the rumored figure has been around that $400,000 mark, right? So when I look at that, you've potentially got around $800,000 there to go out and get somebody for next season. Now, that's not probably what Ryan Papenhuyzen wants to make, $800,000. But again, he would be potentially joining us in, say, January, February. He's got up until June to make that decision if he wants to play next season. So each month that he gets closer to that June deadline is the less you would have to pay for him. Then also, too, I don't know if you saw, but the buy round did a NRL salary cap breakdown and ranked all the teams from worst position to best position. The Sharks were ranked number 2 in terms of best position for what they've got. When you look at who we've got off contract, we've got Jaden Beryl, Billy Burns, Jesse Calhoun, Hamlin Ueli, Tuku, Harodi, Hosking, Katoa, Kennedy, McInnes, Puru, Ramien, Rudolph, Stone Street, Talakai, and Vayela. That's a lot of money to move around there. And there's a lot of guys there you might have to say goodbye to, but also at the same time, you've got a lot of talent coming up underneath, like Fitz said. So at first, I kind of brushed this off, but then the more I think about it, and this long-winded answer is I actually think we've got a bit of a shake on this one.
Okay. So would you be thinking that it's possible for the season coming? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you're Ryan Papenhuyzen, right, and you wanted to take a bit of a break, and the stress of the NRL has been getting to him, and there was a bit of criticism last year around his form. I think Braithen Astor came out on NRL 360 and said they kind of looked like a better team when Papenhuyzen wasn't playing fullback. So there was a bit of a noise, right, around him last year and his fitness, and the NRL, the R360 type noise, and it just seems like he wants a break, right? Now he might want to continue and extend that break. He might want to go to Japanese rugby. He might want to just get out of the fishbowl, right? But if you look at it from a opportunistic standpoint, if Ryan Papenhuyzen is going to go and join another club at 27 years old that he currently is, he's about to turn 28 next season. I don't see him wanting to be part of a 3-4 year rebuild. I would say that he's looking at it going, well, if I'm going to continue my rugby league journey, I'm going to be 28 next year. I want a realistic chance to win a competition. Now, the Sharks and the Storm have had a rivalry for a very long time, but we've seen players come and go, from Will Chambers to Finucane to Nico Hines. Yeah. So, again, I think there's a level of respect there. And, I mentioned this to you off camera. A few years ago, back in 2017, when Munster was looking to go to Sydney, potentially, the Storm sort of said, look, you should only really look at two clubs. And it was the Roosters and the Sharks. And if you go back to when Cooper Cronk left Melbourne, who were the teams that were in the mix for Cooper Cronk? It was the Sharks and it was the Roosters. Now, we didn't get Cooper Cronk and we didn't get Papenhuyzen. But who else also nearly came to the club a few years ago in that coaching director role? It was Craig Bellamy, right? So I think if he sits down and has a bit of a chat to those that are close to him, there is a level of respect that the Sharks would have that I don't think the Dragons would have in those conversations. You then layer on top of it, his really good friend, Nico Hines, who is a big mental health advocate, is here in the Shire, is signed on a long-term deal, can help push that agenda of, hey, mate, I've just got engaged. My life is so good. The Shire is an awesome place. Come down here. It's not as if you're going to go and play for South Sydney or for the Roosters or for the Bulldogs and be in that news cycle every single week, right? Even Parramatta, which he grew up as I think he grew up as a fan of the Bulldogs, but came from the Parramatta area. If he signed with any of those bigger clubs, I use that term loosely, it's a lot more of a thing, right? Whereas now, he comes down to the Shire, he lives near the beach, he has a laid-back lifestyle, he has friends in the environment. Finucane is still involved with the club as well.
Yeah.
I think we're in a real position here to sort of say to him, hey, mate, we might not be able to give you the $1 million you walked out on, but maybe if you come and join us in January, February, after a bit of a break, clear your head, you might be able to pocket $700,000 this year and then get onto a deal that is closer to what your talents are actually worth. Because he's not a guy that's going to go to, say, the Roosters and play 5'8" because they've got Teddy at fullback. He's not going to go to Manly and push Tommy Turbo into the centres because they don't have enough money. We're one of the few clubs that have money, a talented roster, and a fullback spot that is up for grabs. So I think there is a real chance, Sam, that we could try and pull him in for next year if he had any interest in playing. And I think that's the key thing. I mean, what's your read on him? Do you think he will play anywhere next year?
I don't have a good enough read on him because he's not the most public figure, which I respect. It's all speculation. The things we've heard, I don't know if we've heard much out of his mouth, direct quotes. And he seems like a pretty smart guy, pretty on top of things, knows what he wants. But he doesn't seem like a bad egg. He doesn't seem like a troublemaker. I mean, he didn't bail. He left Melbourne. He was upfront about it. And I respect all that. So I don't know what he's thinking. I've got no inclination. I said to you off air, he could probably retire and spend his life surfing now with a premiership ring and a Clive Churchill medal around his neck. Or he could come back as soon as next year and play 3, 4, 5 more years and potentially do something. Now, in my head, a very injury-prone player, and the numbers back that up to a degree. But it's a lot better when you actually look at it. So 2019, 22 games, his most in a season. Finished minor premiers. 2020, played 20 games, won the comp. 2021, played 15 games. 2022, 12 games. 2023, 3 games. So over 3 seasons, what's that? like almost just 30 games over 3 seasons. But then 2024 makes the grand final, plays 20 games, and this season just gone 21 games makes the grand final. So the injuries are behind him, and it's proven that whenever he plays 20 games or more, they do really good things. I was messaging a few of the other SharkCast colleagues this morning about it, and Jardine Ormsby raised the point about Will Kennedy with Ronaldo being injured. And for all of you Stone Street people, just hang on while I say this. Kieran, would you consider Will Kennedy on the wing if Papenhuyzen was to come in? Just playing fantasy football right now.
I say this with the greatest respect to Jards and to yourself. I would prefer you on the wing than Will Kennedy on the wing. It's just not something that I see.
Speed, size.
So like playing fullback is such a specialist position. Now there are elements that you can translate that to into 5'8" and center. But again, if you're the last line of defense, the winger is actually the hardest spot to defend in the NRL. And you see players like Dylan Zelezniak, geez, that's a hard name to say, get hammered for his reads and all that type of stuff. I don't know if you've seen Sean Johnson comes out and defends him all the time. So it says, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Look, he's actually doing his job. Ronaldo has been, called out a few times for jamming in and all that type of stuff. So I just think structurally, it's too much of a leap to make Will at 28, 29 jump onto the wing when he probably has not played wing at a serious. I don't remember him playing wing in under 20s or anything like that. But even if he did, I mean, that was like 8-9 years ago, right? So I just don't think he has the size, speed, physicality, but also too, he would be wasted on the wing in an attack, right? I think as a winger, you kind of need an aerial threat and somebody to do those tough carries. Now, Will can definitely do those tough carries. He's good on the high ball, but positionally wise, he's not there. And I just think it's too much of an ask for a team trying to win a premiership to manufacture a slower, more ball playing fullback onto the wing. I don't see it because again, he'd be playing outside of KL.
Yeah.
And again, I wouldn't see how that would work either. And again, if you really want a new winger, do you look at the Zach Lomax? Personally, for me, it's a no. I'm looking at Zach Lomax, just given the history of getting out of contracts for taking absolutely worse deals. I think, his management team, he was on this at the Dragons, didn't want to play on the wing, so took less to play centers at Para, spent the year on the wing at Para on less money, got out of his deal to go to join R360, and now is looking at a $150,000 deal for Super Rugby. So again, he could be out there if you really wanted to, but I just think what we're building, he's not a fit.
To be fair to Jardine, he didn't say how about it. He just raised the idea. He didn't say he was for it. He said, so just didn't want to put too much on Jardine.
I put a line for that one straight away.
Yeah, fair enough. Me too. Nah, he's all good. Zach Lomax for me is a no. I don't think he's a fits kind of guy. And I wouldn't say it's a never, but my initial thought is Papenhuyzen, amazing guy, an amazing player. Zach, I also don't think that, because what happens when Ronaldo's back in round 20? Then what do you do with Zach?
That's it. Well, and so Zach would give you a couple of different options, right? So you've got the potential Ramien situation, all that type of stuff, right? So you potentially could have Katoa and Mulatalo with Lomax in the centers with KL if Ramien does move on. But then also, too, you are clogging up the salary cap room and the opportunities for the Michael Gabriels and things like that. We've got a ton of these younger players coming through right now where if you look at the Moneyball theory of what we're trying to do, we could actually be rewarded by being the club that's made the two best signings in the last 2 years. If we get Adam Fanua-Blake this season and then we're going to turn into Ryan Papenhuyzen next season, I don't think people can sit there and say, what are the Sharks doing? Their roster's no good, blah, blah, blah. We literally would be addressing two of the biggest needs that we've got. And buying a Zach Lomax would, to me, kind of scream out like, do you remember when Flano kind of took over from Mooney in like 2017 and we just bought Dugan and, Sean Johnson and Woods?
I was going to hark back even further to like mid-2000s, which I've been looking at quite a lot, and where there was it was a Ricky Stewart thing as well. Like someone's available, let's get him.
Rennie Matua.
Yeah, all those sort of guys. But Flano, definitely, you're right. Like Flano would, I mean, ironically, he let him go, but he would also snap him up.
Yeah.
So, but and yeah, I don't think it's. I wouldn't even at this point consider it because there are guys coming through. We talk about it every week, but there's one guy in particular who he's going to be close next year. So,
Yeah.
and you can have him on 1/10 of the wage or whatever. Although, as you're saying, Lomax. Well, the other thing is the NRL would make you pay a minimum for him, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, Volandis did come out and say that he's going to be. Well, they're both welcome back with open arms because they were misled by this whole situation. And again, like, I mean, I'm not their manager or anything like that, but I just look at that whole situation and go, "Wow, this was mishandled." Especially in a Lomax situation, to continually take less money while your form is actually improving, it just boggles the mind. But like, there would be an associated value with him, and the same thing with Papenhuyzen. But as I've sort of said, we would probably have to move on one person to get that sorted. But I think there's a market out there for a Jesse Ramien to go to, say, the Titans with that relationship with Josh Hannay. Like there is a market for somebody to put their hand up and try and take a Toby Rudolph, a Hamlin Ueli off our hands, which would obviously impact the squad, impact our morale, all that type of stuff. These are good players. But, let's say we lose Hamlin Ueli early, right? Or let's say maybe Toby might be more desirable to other teams. Maybe they see him as an off-field fit, all that type of stuff, right? So Toby goes, right? You've still got Kafusi, Hazelton, Hamlin Ueli, and Tooks, right? So you're not exposed there. But now you shift that money elsewhere. And it's the same thing with Ramien, right? If Ramien goes and frees up $300,000, that is literally $300,000 you take straight to Papenhuyzen. And we could be rewarded for being so patient with our recruitment that the stars are starting to align here. And I remember when Nico came to the Sharks, and there was a bit of talk back then because I think Papenhuyzen was off contract too. And it was like one of them is going to get squeezed out. And I thought we were probably going to be more likely to end up with a Papenhuyzen back then. So, I've always kind of had this in my head that he's the perfect guy for what we need because he would not only fill a hole for next season, but he would do that job for 4 or 5 years while we've got this nucleus intact. And again, if you look at stable spines, if you had a spine of Brayley, Trindle, Nico, and Papenhuyzen, you've instantly rocketed up the charts on those things. I don't know if you've seen some of these disrespectful lists that I don't agree with, but often you'll see Will is ranked as the lowest rating fullback in the competition.
I saw the one this week, right? Or last week, and he was 17. Like there was 17 listed, he was 17th. And it was based on last year, and it was ridiculous because I went through at least through 8 guys. He was better than last year. Is he a better football than Kalen Ponga? I don't know, but he had a better year than Kalen Ponga last year. There were all these. So I urge our listeners and viewers, do not buy into that crap because it's almost spam worthy. Like I appreciate there's probably a bunch of people who listen and watch us every week who are the number one, let's get rid of Will Kennedy people. And that's completely okay with me. Like if that's how you want to be, but you cannot look at that list with a decent football mind and go, oh, he was not better than at least 8 of those guys over the whole year. And yeah, I personally found that borderline offensive. But what I was going to say about Will Kennedy is if you're buying Ryan Papenhuyzen and you have Liam Eisen there, you need to move on Will Kennedy, who's on $300,000.
Absolutely, right. And so like, maybe Will is the guy that gets squeezed out instead of Ramien, but I don't see that happening just purely because there wasn't a big market in there for him for this season. So I don't know if he's going to go and really take that payday somewhere else. I look at it and sort of say, all right, well, if Papenhuyzen comes and Papenhuyzen's got this history of injuries and all that type of stuff, you do have Eisen there, right? Now, Eisen's coming off an ACL himself, I believe. So, he's getting back into fitness. But also you sell it to Eisen as you've got 2 years to learn under Ryan Papenhuyzen, 3 years, whatever the case is. Then he's 23, 24. He's ready to take over that role too, right? So you kind of have that constant machine. So Will is definitely the odd man out. But I would expect Will, if we were to somehow, which again, like we're talking, this is crazy. This is crazy. But like if Ryan Papenhuyzen turned up in the Shire, I would still expect Will to stay contracted with us for this season. I don't think they would move him on this year.
I don't know if they would or wouldn't, but if I was GM, I I wouldn't keep him because Papenhuyzen's coming off 41 games over the past 2 seasons. He's fit and ready to go.
Yeah.
Ison's coming off an ACL, but he's fit and ready to go, or
And sign
thereabouts.
long-term.
He needs some game time, but all being well, 10 New South Wales Cup games. If the fullback in NRL goes down, he's ready. So no use having 3 guys there on decent money.
Well, there wouldn't be many teams in the NRL that would have 3 fullbacks in their top 30. Put it that way, right?
No.
I mean, that's 10% of your top 30 in a special position. And again, we spoke about it earlier. Like, Will's not a guy that could play wing, fullback, and Ison's not either, and Papenhuyzen's not, right? Maybe you could try and manufacture Will into a 6 for a little bit, but I don't think that's a sustainable long-term thing for Will. So look, potentially, like, you could go, all right, well, we need to free up salary cap room. So who is our most attractive player? So, and again, I'll just say a Ramien or a Toby, right? So there's 2 options right there that could happen, right? Then you go, all right, well, we're also going to have to move on Will because we can't have 3 fullbacks, right? So potentially now when you're looking at it and going, well, now we've probably got closer to $1 million when you factor in the salary cap relief for next season. But again, clubs aren't going to bend over backwards to help us take these players off our hands because they don't want to see a threat to them take on Ryan Papenhuyzen, right? And the other thing is, if you look at the history of the Sharks, and this goes back to Michael Gordon turning up to Parramatta training ready to go, and Fano said, "No, we're pulling it." We don't necessarily pay for our players to play for other clubs. It is not in our DNA. Now, I don't know if that's a financial restraint that we have. I don't know if that's a philosophy that we have. But this could be one of those occasions where, again, just looking at it, you look at Ramien. Ramien is reportedly on 500,000. He's looking for a deal for 6. Okay, we've paid him roughly at this point, say $80,000 of that contract that he's going to be on. Right, he could go to the Titans this year for $200,000, and we have to chip in 200,000. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then it just becomes this real hard jigsaw. But again, this is what these guys live and breathe, right? But if you're looking at this and you sort of say the Dragons, I thought you were going to push the button. He could go to the Dragons and he could be part of that rebuild that they're doing there, and all the noise and all that type of friction and, the constant noise around Kyle, the dramas around, all that type of stuff. The Dragons should have a decent year. But it's very different for Papenhuyzen to just slip into the Sharks system, be with some people that he's close to, fly under the radar, live in the Shire, and make really good money. And we've got a chance where not a lot of other clubs have the ability right now to cough up that cash for him, I think. And I think that's the one thing that makes me go, the stars are aligning here, Sam.
Okay. I mean, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves and we're selling a lot of hope, and that's fine. We can do that. That's no problem. The reason I don't think you go to the Dragons is, man, this will never get old. I think that as superficial as it all sounds, idyllic landscape, a very stable club, a very good coach, 2 prelims in a row, 4 final series in a row, fairly stable admin board, money, which we'll get to soon, the whole thing. That's just off the field. Oh, sorry. Some of that's on the field as well. Throw in the Melbourne contacts, like you said. I think it's an easy sell if the guy's ready to play. Now, the rugby union thing is an interesting little asterisk hanging over time. They're saying 2028, but who knows? That could be prolonged. The whole thing sounds pretty sketchy, to be honest. And I imagine if Papenhuyzen has had good people with him, I don't think money's really a problem for him. Now that they offered him a lot of money to play rugby, and I imagine they still will in 2 or 3 years' time. So there is time there. Our window is open. The whole argument that a lot of people have had, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm also not going to disagree with it, is that if you throw a Ryan Papenhuyzen in, we do take steps further to lifting that trophy. I'm not saying we don't, but I just don't think it's necessarily the be-all and end-all for us to win the title. That's where I differ on it. However, I'm also not silly, and he's a great champion player. So I think it's realistic in all that sort of scenario, but it's really going to come down to the player. We need to hear from him, and I would love for him just to come out and go yes or no, or yeah, I want to be living in Sydney and playing footy again. I've cleared my mind. Who knows? Maybe he needs a year to clear his mind. Maybe he needs a week. I got no idea. But there are different rumors around. I heard a rumor this morning that the rugby union thing was just a bit of a disguise for him to take time off and be his best self. So we'll wait and see on that stuff. But look, at this point, it's at least a possibility. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the Sharks would say. They don't usually come out and
they won't talk about it,
clear things up either way. You know, they might either have a laugh behind the scenes and go, that's ridiculous, or maybe the wheels are in motion. So we're just speculating. It is off season, a good time to speculate. Let's talk a little bit about Jesse Ramien, our 170 NRL gamer, and he's played 153 for us over the past 4 seasons. He's played 23 games or more in each season. Very reliable, pretty good defender. We know that he had I'd say a lean season last year compared to what he's usually offering. But it doesn't mean next year won't be better for wherever he plays. We also know that his manager, so not necessarily Jesse, but his manager is out there hunting deals. And I don't think it's smart the way he's doing it, but I think it's smart that he is doing it because he's looking for a longer term deal. He's at the higher end of his age group of how many more years he has to play in the NRL. And it's a smart thing for him to go get a 2-3 year deal somewhere that will offer that. I don't think the Sharks are going to offer him a 2 or 3 year deal. They may offer him a 1 year deal, but I don't think he wants that, obviously. So I understand why all this is happening. But the more I hear about it, the more annoyed I get as a Sharks fan. And that's not annoyed at Jesse Ramien. It's just annoyed that I don't want to have my team in the news for anything, let alone player looking for deals. Now, obviously, there's an upside in that if he gets a good deal and we get to promote someone and they become a superstar, then that's awesome. And we clear cap spaces you've been talking about, then that's all positive. But I don't like having our guys in the news. I don't think it's good for the guys. I don't think it's good for the club. It's not a major issue for me, but I just don't like to hear about it. He's been pretty reliable though. So no shade on Jesse. What are your thoughts on what do you think you'll do? Because they're talking as soon as I think the Cowboys situation was going to be maybe this season coming.
Well, again, why would the Sharks entertain that? The only reason why the Sharks would entertain that is the fact to free up room. Now, you're not going to free up the room just to not pay.
Now we should just say we don't know if they have entertained it. You're just saying why would they?
Yeah, we're just going off the stories in the news and all that type of stuff, right? Yeah. We're just joining the dots here in speculation, right?
Yep.
But again, the Sharks are under the salary cap for next season. There is no reason to release a player of Jesse's quality unless you are able to bring somebody in, especially on the back of Ronaldo's injury, right? So the fact that if we're considering that, it's because we have a plan. We're not just going to go release, a high quality player like Jesse and sort of say, well, we hope Gabriel can step up and the Stone Street kid, we hope, he takes a jump too while trying to compete for a title, right? There has to be something in it for us. And I look at that and say, well, we have to find something at that bigger end of town to fill that in because we've got 4 options in the lower grades that are high quality juniors that are chomping at the bit that other clubs want as well, right? And one of them we've just re-signed on a longer term deal. And the fact that, again, I look at Jesse and I look at Will Kennedy and I look at Ison and I look at Gabrielle. Both these are very similar situations. And even you could say Katoa and Stone Street because they've kind of been staggered as well. And now they're both going to come off contract at the same time. This squad can't stay together forever. No. Jesse next season will be 29 in April. So about the first month of competition, he'll be 29. He's respectfully entering the back end of his career. Now, he could go on and win Dally M Center of the Year next year. He's that talented. Yeah. But there has to come a time where we sort of look at the 17 players that we put out in the field most weeks. And I think we actually set the record this year for the most stable team. And I think we used the least amount of players. There has to come a time where you bring in fresh faces and new ideas and new players to get the most out of your system. And I look at Jesse, and I think he's been one of my favorite Sharks for the last few years. But it's hit that point now where we need to make some sort of changes. And I'm looking to make changes with Will, with Jesse. And I look at it and I go, Fitzy is looking at this roster thinking, how can I improve it constantly? What can I do to get this sort of stuff? Which is why I look at the Jesse situation and I go, Jesse's been a great clubman for us for a number of years. He's got a chance to cash in and get a really big payday. We don't want to stand in his way because that's one, we don't want to give Jesse a lowball offer and disrespect him. But also, too, we don't want to let Jesse feel unwanted and unloved. So I think I heard somewhere, I can't remember where I heard it. Maybe I've made this up in my head. But the Sharks were looking at a 1-year deal for Jesse, which might play a little bit in hand to maybe that Papua New Guinea rumor that his manager has come out and started to speak about. Basically, if you didn't see it, his manager came out and said it sounds like the Sharks can't afford to keep Jesse on the money that he's on. Now, I look at that and I think that's fair. Like, nothing against Jesse, but just for where we need to go as a club. If Jesse takes a pay cut and he's at 300,000, say, and he's maybe more at the level of what we're paying Gabrielle, I don't know, and it's more of a competition, there's an opportunity there. You don't get the younger guy offside. You're still planning for the future. Maybe that works, but I just don't think for where he's at in his career and the noise coming out of his camp, it sounds like if you gave Jesse a $600,000 offer, you would be able to sign him for next season, or sorry, for 2027, and then see what next year looks like. So again,
it does.
No shade there. He deserves it, mate. And I just don't think we're going to be able to get in a bidding war for him.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like I might have suggested before, I think he's just after a long-term deal, and that's with his caliber of what he's done. Like, it's completely understandable. And as you said, turning 29, so it's not like when he's 32 he's going to be terrible. It's just he's going to be 32. So if a club, there's plenty of clubs. There's 2 clubs coming in. There's plenty of clubs who could do with Jesse Ramien. I can assure you that. Like, he's despite maybe in a lesser season than what we were hoping for, just gone. Like, he's still a very good player. On your point of using players, yeah, we used 25 in the year just gone. Brisbane, the Premiers, used 27. Melbourne, who made the grand final, 28. So 3 teams who finished prelims or higher had the least amount of used guys. So for all the talk about it's the same team and it actually kind of works if you get it right. So well done the club there, and also just freaks like Brayley and even a guy like Ramien, just their Iron Man. It's just ridiculous. Fanil Blake, like the club's doing good with the fitness, and I got to say, we'll talk about soon. I was down at the sponsors launch, and Toby Rudolph, who'd just come back from holidays, he looks fit and ready to go. And Blake obviously is just a fit specimen anyway, but they look really good. So something's working down there. Now, we haven't got your thoughts on the draw yet, Kieran. So we know we're playing in the first 5 weeks: Titans, Panthers, Dolphins, Raiders, Warriors. 3 of those 5 are at home. What are your initial thoughts? We can get through a few specifics. What are your initial thoughts on the draw?
Before I do that, can I just say one more thing about Papenhuyzen? And I'll go back and answer the draw. So this was just coming in my head while you were talking then, and you were talking about stability and all that type of stuff. And then my head started to go into the weird directions that my brain goes into, right? Now, I thought to myself, who else would Papenhuyzen know at the Sharks? Like, he must have played some junior rep football with these guys. So I've gone back and found the New South Wales under-20 squad in 2018. So he was fullback that day. At prop was Oregon Kafusi. At second row was Billy Burns. Number 14 was Blake Brayley. And number 17 was Teague Wilton. Now, I don't have the junior Kangaroos or the under-20s Kangaroos of that year on me right now. But, Wilton was a player that was in that rep scene for a long time. So was Blake Brayley, and so was Billy Burns. So there's potentially even more links with our current roster than we first thought about. Now, I'll leave that there. But going back onto the draw, I think the fact that we have a lot of games that are not going to be played late at night, we've got a lot of 6:30 games or afternoon games, I think is going to be really conducive to the style of football that we want to play, when you've got Brayley just shooting out a dummy half and Nico running onto the ball. I think that's going to really help. How that translates into September when there's a lot more. Well, this year we actually had a lot more day afternoon games in the finals, but obviously the grand finals later on at night. Will be interesting to see how we go there. I like the fact that our buys kind of evenly spread apart. I think the first buy, I think it's round 7, and then it's 12, and then 17. So yeah, you got those 5-week blocks there. So again, from a stability standpoint, you can really plan out those different blocks. And I look at it and I sort of think it's funny because everyone's gone, oh, the Sharks got an easy draw again. But if you actually go back and look at last year's draw, we had, I think, was the second or third hardest on paper. But then teams like, Canberra are completely different. And Newcastle was not who Newcastle people thought they were going to be. So there's going to be so many changes to this sort of thing. And the draw doesn't matter too much, but there are certain teams you'd like to avoid playing twice. And I think we've done all right on that front.
All right, let's look at that. We play once the Panthers, Cowboys, Tigers, Bulldogs, Broncos, Knights, Eels, Storm. For people watching, that's up on your screen. People who are listening on the audio stream, who we love and adore. Panthers in Bathurst, so week 2. So that's not bad, Kieran, to get them week 2 and also in Bathurst, as opposed to they've got a makeshift home ground this year, but whatever. Cowboys away, Tigers at home, Bulldogs at Magic Round, technically a home game, but it's Suncorp. Broncos away, Knights home, Eels away, Storm home, last game of the year. So they're the teams we play once. And out of those, you really only want to play the Panthers, I guess the Bulldogs, and the Storm and Broncos, especially just the one time. We got off pretty good there.
Well, if you look at that, you would assume the Panthers will be around the top 4. You would assume the Storm will be around the top 4. You would assume the Broncos and Bulldogs as well would be around the top 4. So to only be playing those teams once is a huge advantage. On the downside, you've got teams like the Knights, Eels, and Tigers who finish down the bottom of the ladder. We only play them once. But again, if you look at all those squads, you're expecting improvement from the Tigers, the Knights, who have just got Dylan Brown, and the Eels, they finished the year really well, seem to be building quite nicely out there. The Cowboys once is going to be quite interesting. I still don't have a read on the Cowboys, and I continually go back to look at all the different records. And, I am a Fitz fan. I look at the Bulldogs. They've not had a win under Serrato in the finals. Doesn't get brought up. You look at the Cowboys. Payton joined the same time as Fitz. The Cowboys have gone backwards at a rate of knots with arguably a better roster, definitely more rep players. So I have no idea what to get out of the Cowboys next season. And even the Dogs, I think the Dogs could be in for an interesting year with Galvin too. So I'm pretty happy with that. Like, only having to play Brisbane and Penrith once is a big win.
We know we love our fans in Melbourne. There's plenty of them now, but my God, and they're going to hate me saying this, but what a godsend at this stage, barring finals, not having to go down there, because we just can't win there. I'm sorry, but I'm happy to go down and take the loss. But what's that?
The Papenhuyzen return game too, right?
It is the Papenhuyzen revenge game. We're all over that. Now, at our beautiful stadium, these are the teams we're going to play. We're going to play the Titans, the Dolphins, the Warriors, the Tigers, the Sea Eagles, the Dragons, boo, the Knights, the Rabbitohs, Raiders, Storm. So out of those, you'd rather play Manly at home, although I do think there is an away game at Brookie from memory. Rabbitohs at home, that's a home and away game as well. Raiders, Storm, it's all pretty good. I mean, we're happy just to play down there. It doesn't matter who we're playing, but I can see a bunch of wins in there in theory. Obviously, we've been bitten by a few of those teams in particular, but the old Titans round 1 game, Kieran, that comes around every so often, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've got PTSD from when it happened a few years ago, and was it David Mead scored on the bell or something like that?
Oh, the freaky try at halftime.
Yeah, well, that was also the year where all the Asada stuff came out too, and Bo Ryan was walking around with a sign, I think, from memory. So yeah,
I think they might be two different. They might be two different games, but
I've just got a lot of PTSD with the Titans.
There's a lot of Titans. Yeah, I think we'll look it up when it's closer to the game, but we've played them a bunch of times in round 1, which is kind of funny. But this is AI random, so bless. But that's who we're playing at home, so that'll be fun. Away from Sydney, so out of Sydney, we've got Panthers in Bathurst round 2, which we talked about. Round 4 in Canberra, nice and early. I don't mind that either, Kieran. Not too cold. Round 6 in Perth, that's going to be a challenge. Then round 8 in Townsville, that'll be a challenge. Magic round Suncorp. New Zealand round 15, that'll be tough. There's some tough games here. Round 18, Broncos, Suncorp, Origin midweek, and then round 19 the next week in Redcliffe, the Dolphins, and then we finish close to the season, round 25 in Gold Coast. So there's a lot of travel, but it's broken up a lot compared to the season just gone, thank God.
Yeah, well, if you look at it too, right, we've got the bye in round 12, so that's right after the Magic Round game. Then we've also got the bye after the Perth game too, and we've also, which is in round 7, and then we've also got the bye in round 17, right? So right before we have to go back up to Suncorp and Redcliffe, right? So after the Redcliffe game, we've got 6 weeks where we'll be, not leaving Sydney. So again, the trip to the Gold Coast is only an hour. It's not as if we're going on a big road trip up there. And who knows what the Gold Coast season looks like, respectfully, of course, because, again, the new coach, first season, bit of turmoil, finished down the bottom of the ladder this year. Their season might be, they could be fighting for the 8, or they could be, their season could be effectively over at that point of the year, right? So there's a bit of a chance for us to kind of model this, but potentially, like, let's say, best case scenario, the Sharks are flying. You might rest a few guys in that round 25 game and not take them on that away trip. So then there's certain players that might not have had to have traveled since round 19, right? So a bit of flexibility there. And I think that's a really huge gap right there between 19 and 25. I think the Sharks will be looking at going by round 17, 2 away games back to back, and then, basically 6 weeks until we have to get on a plane again. So I think that's going to be the real focus for the downhill run for this year.
Now, where we need to get it right is the Origin period, and we absolutely bugger that up like I haven't seen too many teams bugger it up last year, and it cost us a title run, I'm sure of that. So this season coming, we have a bye, and then there's game 1, and then we play Manly at home on a Friday night. So bye into Origin on a Wednesday, then Friday, Sharks Manly at Sharks. Now, if everyone's fit at Manly, you would think there would be 1 or 2 guys there. There'd be a Trbojevic. Would there be other people at Manly? You're better at this than I am, but
even Tom, mate. I mean, there'd be a chance Tom might play in the centres, but traditionally around this time of year, Tom hasn't been available, right? So potentially, he might be there, he might not be. Other players at Manly, off the top of my head, there's
the big second rower dude.
Olakwatu. He will definitely be in the mix, right? So if he's available, but outside of that, I don't really think they've got anybody else that'll be kind of. Maybe a Ruben Garrett comes out of nowhere, but I don't think so. But that's going to be an interesting one, that Friday game, because again, after game 1, I'm anticipating the Sharks probably don't have anyone in Origin next season either, unless it's Ryan Papenhuyzen.
Off the bench, Ryan Papenhuyzen. So then we have, after a Warriors away game, game 2. So Warriors away, then there's game 2 of Origin, then we play the Roosters late Sunday. So those kind of bruising and injuries are really hanging around for the late Sunday game. Now, Roosters, you imagine, would have a chunk of guys in there, so that's to our advantage. And then after we play the Broncos at Suncorp, it's game 3 in Brisbane, and then the Dolphins up there on the Saturday, 3:00. So
that's perfect.
You like that?
Because if you look at that, you think about that, right? So we're playing the Broncos, who are going to be heavily Origin affected and have their players unavailable for that game. Then we basically could, I don't know if they'll stay in Brisbane, if they'll come back. I don't know how these things work. Sometimes they do these camps, right?
I think they might not at this stage. I'm just speculating. I think they might not, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's a long time away from their families, right? So it's probably not going to do that. But then again, you're getting the Dolphins, on a Saturday after Origin, and they'll be Origin affected too, right? So I look at that and I go, that's kind of a best case scenario if you are to do back-to-back games up in Queensland, right? So I've actually got tickets I haven't got tickets for that Dolphins away game, but I've booked a hotel and flight. So I'll be at that one, and hopefully it's going to be a lot better experience than I went and watched the Sharks versus Roosters away during this period last year, because that was terrible.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we'll get to all the away games and that kind of stuff closer to the time. But, yeah, hopefully you and I will be on the road a little bit and Might even have some get-togethers and that kind of thing with people who are keen on that, but there's a long way between now and then. So, yeah, pretty kind draw for us. The early leaks were that, hey, it's going to be a good draw, and then it kind of is, but then it's the NRL, man. Like, it's a long season. It's too long, and anything can happen. And as you've said, we don't know what these teams are going to be like. Will Newcastle be better with the new 5'8"? They probably will, based on what he did in the rep footy period for New Zealand. Are the Titans going to be better with a new coach? Of course they will. Josh Hannay is an awesome coach. We know that under new coaches, teams can kind of lift a bit. Like, so it's an unpredictable season. Like West Tigers, they're falling apart off the in the boardroom right now as we speak, but they had a pretty good year. They might be better. Who knows? So we'll wait and see and all that. But the draw, as we look at it, we're both pretty happy with that. I think most Sharks have pretty happy with that. Our Melbourne fans are not happy. We're not going down there. We can't do much about that. But as I said, I wouldn't rule out us playing in Melbourne, unfortunately, during the final series. Hopefully we've done enough where we don't have to get down there, of course. Now, Kieran, happy days. We've got a new stadium sponsor. That is Ocean Protect. And their motto is to stop pollution entering waterways. Very good business to be involved with as far as ethically and feel good. It's a local, it's a local company with a eye on the local area, but they do more than just Sutherland Shire. What were your thoughts when you heard about Ocean Protect coming on board?
I often poke jokes at the Sharks because, again, it's the only thing that you can do as a long-suffering Sharks fan is laugh at yourself. And I will give them an insane amount of credit for how smart this decision was. And there is zero things that I can see as a negative in this. The fact that they've gone out and they've got an organization that is doing great work in terms of, we had PointsBet, right? And you say what you want about gambling, all that type of stuff. But again, that's obviously got a connotation and, it can rub people up the wrong way. The fact that we've gone with such a beautiful idea of a company to support us. And again, there's a financial transaction for them too. It's going to help promote their brand as well. In a time where our stadium is getting a lot of criticism and we went 12 months without naming rights and all that type of stuff, to go out and be so strategic to land such a friendly, I want to use the word sponsor, is just fantastic. Because again, if people start coming out with a criticism and they're going to be naming this great charitable project that we're doing, well, it's not charitable because there's obviously finances involved, but again, the idea behind Ocean Protect and all that type of stuff, it again just puts it in a harder position to throw down mud on it, right? And if you look at it too, the work that they're doing with the BMX that was there, the motocross, the Carols by Candlelight, which is happening this month at the stadium.
We're not sure if that's going ahead, so we might just leave that as an asterisk. I heard a few things that might not be going ahead, but the fact that the idea was there, please go.
They're trying, right? So again, we can sit here and, people can say, and I've seen it online, people that have been members for 20 plus years aren't renewing their season ticket until the ground gets upgraded, all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. I totally understand where you're coming from that aspect. I've got young kids myself. I don't like taking them to Shark Park, but again, I still go for myself. I don't take the kids, but they're trying. And if we sat there and did nothing, then I think the criticism is fair. But the fact that they are trying multiple angles to try and do as many things as possible to get attention to the stadium and to draw more eyeballs to it, to force the local government and the NRL to help step in and to make this happen. It's the only club without funding for this sort of project, especially in Sydney, I believe. So again, such a great decision to get on a really classy sponsor like that. That's only going to help with what we're trying to do. Because again, they want that story to be, hey, Ocean Protect Stadium gets an upgrade. And that's great for everybody.
Yeah. So I've been to a few of these launches for both our club and just things in my life where there's a new financial, sponsor involved. And I've never been to one where you've actually gone, yeah, right on. This is awesome. And that means when I say that, I don't mean financially only. I mean every aspect of it. We had the owner get up and talk, and he was like in tears about what it meant to him as far as his business. being involved in the club who does such great work around the community. And I want to just throw something out there, and I'm not going to mention any figures at all, but there's a rumor going around that, or not a rumor, just speculation that the Sharks didn't receive any money for this. It's a charitable thing. And there's another rumor going around that it's not much money. I heard what I think is the correct figure, and it's a good amount of money, per year, over 3 years, I believe. Like, it's not chump change, the figure I heard. So just put that one out of your mind. Don't worry about that. The fact that the Sharks signed on with it, they wouldn't have signed on. They might have signed on with a company like this for free because of the ethics involved. They didn't. It's not for free. There is a lot of money involved. But they also would have probably just kept it as Shark Stadium, to be honest. If like, it's not, this is not a charitable business deal. It's a above board. We're going to give you money. You're going to promote our name on your ground. So get that out of your head if that's what you're thinking. And I saw personally all the Ocean Protect, or at least some of the Ocean Protect staff there with their families, just absolutely beaming about what's coming. And, whether it was getting their photos with the players or with the staff, or giving the staff, their own kind of merch from Ocean Protect and that kind of thing. It was a really heartfelt exchange between one business to another. And the fact that they stop pollution entering waterways, and the fact that you and I live in this area, and a lot of our listeners do, it's fantastic. So yeah, congrats to everyone involved, and hopefully it's a beautiful relationship. We'll see what happens throughout the next 3 years with that. But again, as you said, it's the Sharks saying, hey, we actually can get something done. We can get something done for our stadium. I was super annoyed at a lot of the fans writing on social media about, okay, now you can upgrade toilet number 2 or whatever. Like, it just wasn't the time, just people can never be just content, Kieran, just to go, oh, that's awesome, full stop. It's got to be, okay, now do this, this, and this with that money in the next week. It's like, come on, people. Just, I'm not excusing anything about the conditions of our stadium, but let them have one day from both a club point of view and from the business point of view to go, this is what we've done. This is it, full stop.
Yeah, and what it's doing is to try and improve the stadium, right? And to actually have a proper sponsor behind it to put that money into action for different things. Like, we don't know what they're spending some of that sponsorship money on. Like, they could be upgrading certain things here and there. But also then to have the ability to go and work with, say, Ocean Protect as a business, then go back to the government and say, look, we are promoting this as a community asset, and we are working with the community on protecting the oceans and doing all this type of stuff. I just think there's a lot of synergies there that's, one, going to help Ocean Protect, and two, going to help the Sharks with their dealings with the government and with their dealings with the awareness of the stadium. Because I mean, I'm not in the room. I wasn't a part of the pitch, but I'm sure part of what the messaging would have been is, you sign on today for this stadium and we're going to work our butts off to try and get this upgraded. And the great news story is going to be, welcome to the brand new Ocean Protect Stadium in 2030 or whatever the case is, whatever the dream they're going to try and sell. But again, you've got to move forward and try and get things done. You can sit there and bag out the stadium and all that type of stuff. And you're right. Like, you got to pick a time and place when you're going to do that. It's not when a company is literally giving you, a substantial amount of money for effectively a naming right. Like, again, it's something that we didn't have in our pockets this season. So again, like, you got to pick your times and battles for that. But I think to those people, like, the club is acutely aware of this. The club is putting out different events, and even some of the timing of the stories, and even Dino's been involved in a few of these things in the press, with the view of, guys, we are trying to get this sorted. No one's going to give it to us. No one's going to say, hey, look, you know what? You guys deserve a new stadium down there. Like, here's a bunch of funding, go do it. Like, we've got to work to do it. And this is part of the process. And I think aligning yourself with a great company that does work like this has a real chance to make an impact in the community, and how we then sell that to people that have the money for this sort of funding type of stuff, right? Because outside of a billionaire Sharks fan throwing out, a couple $100 million to upgrade the stadium, like we're not going to get that type of facility upgrade without working with the government, right? So we've got to come up with ways to try and align ourselves with good news stories and good PR, again, to promote the community aspect of what we're trying to do here. Because again, Riccio said it, the Sutherland Shire produces an insane amount of not just NRL players, but Olympic level athletes. So again, we've just got to keep promoting that, keep doing that, and drawing attention to our stadium in the best way possible to try and get those things. Because again, it's got to be seen as a community thing, not just the Sharks thing.
And who knows what else may come of this? Maybe Ocean Protect have friends in the business who want to get on board in a different way, or maybe another company, and maybe it is like a betting company or an insurance company or something a bit more not as wholesome, wants to go, you know what, I want to be involved with that Ocean Protect people and the Sharks again. Let's dance. So there are only positives at the moment for it. And just wanted to talk a bit about that with you. Now, before we get to Random Shark of the Week, you did mention the Sharkies have a new store. And if you don't know about that, the store is just across the way. It's literally right opposite where you were originally in Woolooware Bay precinct. So go check it out. I was down there yesterday doing a little bit of purchasing, and the store looks great. They've done a great job. Really quick kind of move. I think they were out of action for maybe a week or so, but definitely good for all of your Christmas needs, that's for sure. And just congrats to all those guys and girls involved with that. Now, I've got a Random Shark of the Week before we get out of here, Kieran. I got a feeling, no pressure to you, you're going to get it quick. We do put this asterisk up because we did it for ages, then we stopped for ages, and we're doing it again. If I've done this one, I wholeheartedly apologize. But if I have, it's been a couple of years, and maybe we've all forgotten about it. This gentleman was born in 1983. 1983, Kieran. He was 190 centimeters tall, and he weighed 91 kilograms at the time. He played 6 NRL games in total, and all 6 were for the mighty Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. He played these 6 games in the one season. He played against the Broncos, Eels, Raiders, Manly, West Tigers, and Gold Coast Titans. He did not score a try in this time. And he had 3 of 6 wins. So 50% record in the NRL for this gentleman. He debuted against Manly at what is now known as Ocean Protect Stadium in round 19 of 2007. So debuted round 19, 2007. Played his last game against the Raiders at GIO Stadium in round 25, 2007. Therefore, mathematically for you, Kieran, he played 6 games in 2007 between round 19 and round 25. As I get the cough button ready.
So far, my daughter is having an absolute meltdown out the front, and I'm trying to rack my brain of where we're at. 2007 is a year of, again, more PTSD, so thank you for that. But again, I'm thinking it's a forward. But yeah, keep going. Need some more hints.
I don't have too many more hints. It is a forward. What else can I tell you? There's not.
Is he a dummy half?
Not a dummy half. I looked up the Wikipedia, and there's not a lot more info on there. I believe he was born in Samoa. I believe, if this Wikipedia is correct. And for some reason, and this may give it away, the Wikipedia isn't always right. for some reason, it's saying he was a Portuguese international, and no, of course, it's not Isaac de Gois.
This is a cracking random shark of the week because I'm trying to think of one of the Portuguese internationals that we.
Well, I wouldn't be thinking Portuguese when I think of this gentleman, just to be fair. But I'm not saying it didn't happen. Maybe it did happen. Maybe somewhere down the line there's Portuguese heritage. But it looks like he played, 6 straight games for us. There might have been a bye in there, or maybe there was a week off for him. But rounds 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25. Won 3 of his last 4 in 2007. He was a middle forward, is how you would technically term him. I'm going to give you a bit more of a hint. He was a prop.
Jacob Selms?
No, but we're in the right territory of cult. I would say Colts props.
Because I'm thinking
the
Selms
Sharks
does not look Samoan.
No, it's not Selms. He's whiter than I am, with respect. But you're in the right category as far as, like, dare I say, with all respect, I've never played 1 minute of football, but random shark of the week, we're there. We're at random shark of the week time. But it's not a name that you don't know. And it's not
Is he a
name
local junior?
I honestly don't know. In my head, he wasn't. I don't have any other, like, lower grade info which suggests he didn't play Holden Cup or anything. He may have come from the park. I'm sure the person involved might get in touch with us. One of our genius listeners will let me know, of course. But at this point, I'm going on the info I have. And I don't have much more for you, my friend. I don't think I have anything else. Oh, you know what? He's listed as 4 games at prop, 2 in the second row, but I would go with prop if I was you.
I mean, the part that's really thrown me, it's a Samoan Portuguese mixture that just really rattled me. And
I would go with Samoan over Portuguese. You know what? He must have played lower grades. I'm looking at a picture of him, and what years were we involved with the Storm in New South Wales Cup? How far back would that have gone?
I think that was...
Would it have been 07 or not? Probably not.
No, later. So they had the Central Coast Storm, I think, around 07, 08, 09.
I'm just looking at the picture of him. Hang on a sec while I just zoom in with my eyes. Yeah, he's wearing a bizarre lower grade jersey. So he must have played lower grades, but I haven't got the info on that.
So maybe
big lump of a lad. Big lump of a lad.
It's not Vave, is it?
No,
he played
I love
more
Vave,
games.
he played,
he played
lower
grades.
I don't know what happened to this gentleman, but at the moment, and from Wikipedia, I mean, if I do one more quick search on him, just bear with me. I'll see if I can find anything else about this gentleman.
That's such a combo.
There's a couple of pages here, but okay, so on a different page, which is a bizarre page I found, unless it's just copying Wikipedia, it says, he represented Portugal international games, known for playing prop.
And he only played 6 games.
Yeah, 6 NRL games. That's not a great page, but that seems accurate. Let me go to one more source before we call it. Yeah, that's all we've got on the internet about him. So we're going to do a call out to him, I think. So 07, you got no one else?
Eddie Sewer.
Where did that come from?
Oh, I had no idea, mate. Just guessing absolutely the most weird connected shark that I could think of from that time period that played 6 games, because I'm looking at, like, Vave went to the Storm. I'm looking at, like, Philip Luluay. I think he went to... Yeah, I think he played more than 6 games. I'm looking at Clifford Manure, who we did like a week or two ago. I'm looking around.
The random shark of the week is Eddie Sewer. Well done, Kieran.
Yeah.
That's
the hardest one of all time.
Just got you there. Well done. Yeah, I didn't realize there wasn't that much info out there on him, but and that made me want to do it. But Eddie Sewer, with all respect, wherever you are, sir, you're doing well. I remember him playing. I remember he was a big bopper.
I'm just Googling him now.
And I say this with complete respect, because some of the guys we've talked about just before, like same kind of history. I think he might have been a park footy guy.
Yeah, I'm just putting it into Google now, and there is, I think,
I've given you what you got.
4 rows of photos. Those 4 rows are not full, and he is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the photos, and Henry Perenara is in 2 of them.
What's that jersey? The first one on the left. What's that jersey?
That's a 2008 reserve grade one. I think we were like the Cobras.
Okay, so that's the jersey I wasn't sure of.
Yeah, so I can't remember. Was that like a thing with Cabramatta or no? It says the Cronulla Southern Cobras. Can we get Ash to help us out with that to find out like what was the Cronulla Southern Cobras? I don't remember that at all.
It looks like they're playing at like North Sydney or somewhere, and that's anyway.
So the other thing too, I've just found on him, Ricky Stewart calls on 115 kg bouncer. So there's an article on Fox Sports.
Yeah, the bouncer. That sounds like something. Yeah.
He was a part-time footballer on a $5,000 a year contract, working 6 nights a week as a bouncer, who survived the workplace shooting.
Yeah. Okay. That's our man.
So he works the door at Mounties Club and PJ Gallagher's in Parramatta, often not finishing work until 3:30 in the morning.
Some tough places there. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that article.
That's his. I think that's definitely the most random shark that I think we've done. And I know we've done some random ones, but my memory bank on Eddie Sewer is, respectfully, I don't have a lot of memories of it. I don't know.
I remember that article. I remember the article. I remember the bouncer story. I remember him having a crack the end of 2007. That was it, Eddie Sewer. So good stuff. Hopefully he's doing well.
There you go. He was a park footballer with Helensburgh and also played Premier League this year. I'm asking him to come in and do himself proud with the performance, Ricky Stewart said. So he was effectively playing. He started the year in Jim Beam Cup for the Sydney Bulls. I mean, that's a crazy story. And then it also says here at the bottom of the story, 2 other players, Stewart's injury hit Shark squad for Friday night, are also on humble contracts. Dane Weston is on $10,000 a year annually, and Henry Perenara is on $20,000 a year. That is absolutely wild when you think, and I know inflation has changed a lot of things, but like a professional athlete on $10,000 or $20,000 for a season,
that game you're talking about, we've spoken about a fair bit on this show. It ranks up there with a Melbourne game around that time as well, but it was a Friday night at Ocean Protect Stadium, as it's now called, and your team was, well, the team's not that bad, right? But you got Davey Simmons at fullback, so it was Simmons' time, the new peach. So the back line's okay. Henry Perenara is playing 5/8, which wasn't the normal go. The packs, yes, the back row is Cam Serraldo, Eddie Sewer on debut in the second row, and Reece Williams lock. And your bench is Dane Nielsen on debut, Dane Weston, one of your great friends there, Paul Stevenson, and Isaac de Gois. So you got 2 centers essentially, like Paul Stevenson, he was like center second row almost, right?
Yeah, he was a center winger that played in the back row under Stewart, especially this 2007 season. And whenever we do random Shark of the Week, he is my default answer for every single time.
And he came from Manly, yeah, that guy, right? Is that him?
He came from Manly, yeah.
Yeah. So handy player, but he was essentially a 3/4. And Ricky turned him into a forward. But so the bench was Dane Nielsen on debut, Dane Weston, tough guy, Paul Stevenson, and little Isaac de Gois, with Eddie Sewer on debut in the second row. And We lost the game 29-22, but we took it to them. So it was pretty
I actually
remarkable.
remember that game.
Yeah.
Just because of Dane Nielsen. And I remember that was the only game that he played for the Sharks. And he was like coming through as like one of the good players we had in the lower grades. But just even while I'm looking up Eddie Sewer, I can find a photo of Reese Robinson. Do you remember him?
Of course.
There was two Robinson brothers. It was Reese, and I can't remember the other one. The other one was, do you remember?
I can look it up for you right now.
No, I can't remember. But I remember they were two really talented lower grade players, and they just couldn't get a start at the Sharks. And then Reese went on and played, 120 NRL games across, 10 years in the NRL.
Travis.
And even
Travis
Super
Robinson.
Rugby. Yeah, there you go. And they had so much hype about them, and it was such a perplexing time that Sharks fans were saying, these guys are killing New South Wales Cup. How do they not get a chance? Because we weren't setting the world on fire. But it's always funny when you find like these random Sharks and then you kind of do the dotted line like I kind of did with the under-20s team in 2018 where Papenhuyzen played with his future teammates, right? So it's wild how connected these players are with all the different teams that they've played in and like that 6 degrees of separation. Like you've got Eddie Sewer here who you could probably get to, you definitely could get to like Cam Smith, for example, right? But you could even probably go more obscure. I'm sure Cam Smith played with Andrew Johns a game, right? So you could get Eddie Sewer to like pretty much any NRL player based on the back of someone like Dane Nielsen, who was gone to the Melbourne Storm.
Amazing. All right, Kieran, you got anything else for me before we let you go?
No, good to catch up, mate. Maybe we'll do another one before Christmas, but come January, it's going to be interesting. I think that Fitzy was saying a few of the Sharks players get back in mid-December, right? So maybe a bit more news then, and looking forward to it. Yeah, we should do get Papenhuyzen. We'll do a huge podcast on that because it's not going to happen, but I would love to dream.
Well, I think we've done a good job of that in this episode. I think that they'll have a few good sessions with most of the boys before Christmas, and then post-Christmas, everyone will be back. Although, as Blake said on the show last week, he's going to go there, but I think he's due back January, but he'll be back.
Vanilla Blake was training at my gym yesterday. So, and they put him through a huge session there, and he's doing that independently himself, right? And some people were bagging out for Fafita, who's recently joined the gym, saying, "Where's AFB today?" And he said he's too sore. So it's good to see that they're putting in the work because those are hard sessions.
Now, did AFB kind of break the machinery?
I didn't actually go yesterday because my youngest, who had the meltdown a couple of whiles ago, is going through like a sleep regression at the moment. So from 12 to like 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm just like a zombie trying to calm her down and get her back to sleep. So I missed yesterday, but hopefully I can do a session with him in the next couple of days. But I did see him at the end in one of the videos that I think Fafita put up, and he was just gassed because it's so hot in that place, and it's like 45 minutes of just cardio nonstop, right? So again, he's a guy who is on holidays, on break. He's not supposed to be, doing team training, things like that. He's going out and doing personal stuff like that just to make sure he turns up as fit as possible. So it's great to see.
Yeah, a bunch of them are. I know that BHU's out there. Yeah. So that's great stuff. Why is there no air in the building to make it feel?
So it's in Caringbah. It's like around where the Woolworths sort of shipping and Ozpost sort of centers are, and it's just like those old school sort of sheds. It's fantastic and new inside. It's all done up, but it's just like those tin roofs. There's a fan on the roof. And
but it's obviously a choice.
I think it's basically to help promote there's direct sun on it and all that type of stuff. So there's a few factors there, but it's just it's a great place to train, but it can get really hot in there. And again, you come out absolutely dripped in sweat, right? So I think Fafita lost 8 kilos in the first 10 days there. So yeah, it definitely works.
Excellent. All right, Kieran, we'll let you go. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And we'll be back with more episodes throughout summer. It's now officially summer, Kieran, even though there's a little bit of a coldness in the air this morning, Kieran. We're in summer. We're officially there.
It was 12 degrees when I got up at 5:30 this morning. And the other gripe that I've got with the weather now that you've brought it up, and we're not going to get off until I get this on my chest. Have you noticed that Thursday, Fridays have been sunny, but Saturday, Sundays have been overcast, windy, and wet for like the last 6 weeks? It's been doing my wife's head in.
So you're saying the universe is out to conspire against you and your wife and punish you with bad weather on weekends?
So again, you look at this right now, and again, of course, I've made myself a mischief, but 28 on Thursday, sunny, 32 on Friday and sunny, cloudy and 35 on Saturday, then 24 and rainy on Sunday. So you watch, Saturday will be hot, but it'll be cloudy and one of those weird, yucky weather days that the Shire seem to have. And Thursday, Friday, not a cloud in the sky and, 30 degrees. So, I want to go to the beach with the kids. I don't really want to do it during work time. I'd like to do it on the weekends.
I love how you said in the Shire, like it's like only the Shire is going to have this cloud and heat thing above them.
The Shire is the strangest weather that I've ever lived in. I've lived in the inner west. I've lived on the central coast. I've lived in the northern suburbs. There is nothing like the Shire weather. I don't understand it. And my stupidity was I bought a house at my old place that was like 5 minutes from Shark Park, and I would complain about the monsoons that we got there all the time. And I thought I've spent 30 plus years watching this stadium and the monsoons. But also, Caringbah South doesn't get it as bad as like Woolooware Cronulla gets it. I don't understand.
It's because you guys are richer.
Well, that doesn't seem to be helping me very much.
You obviously haven't been to Melbourne because that is, as the song says, you know what the song says. That's what it is.
So you don't really get the 4 seasons in one day here in the Shire, but what you'll get is 35 cloudy, windy, the next day 12 degrees to 17 rainy, and then you got 30 degrees and sunny for like 4 hours, and then it's gone again. I don't know if it's just the way that the basin works and it all goes out to sea or something, but the weather, I hand on heart, and if anyone else is a Shire resident and has lived elsewhere as well, happy for you to give me your thoughts on this one. But it's so unique to Sydney, this place.
We might need to get our friends at Ocean Protect involved and give us some stats on rain and waterways and that kind of thing, and see if we can back it up.
Get that. We get the Mozzie expert as well, so we can understand what that then does to the mosquitoes. Because I should say
I was hanging out with the Mozzie expert. His name's Cam Webb. We were hanging out on Saturday night at a brewery in Marrickville called Mixtape. It was my first time there. Mixtape Brewery. It's on Victoria Road. Great place. Go check it out. And there happened to be some great local bands on. I'll say from yesteryear, but they're still doing great stuff. Knievel and Smudge. And it was with Dr. Webb and Mrs. Dr. Webb, Annette, and had a great time hanging out with those guys. And we got to a bit of footy talk as well. So Cam's pretty pumped. He's actually heading, without revealing too much about his personal life, he's heading to the States pretty soon. So we'll be missing Cam from the show for the next month or so. But that's Cam's shout out, and follow him on the Insta. I don't know what his handle is, but look up Dr. Cameron Webb and you'll find him. And he does a lot of cool videos about mosquitoes and how you can avoid, trouble with mosquitoes and that kind of thing. So definitely a fun one to follow. Kieran, we'll talk to you soon. Everyone else, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. It all helps. I promise you. Give our sponsors some love as well. And we will be back sooner than you can say. Up, Cronulla.